You're waiting for an elevator. The door's open. A stranger is already inside. For 1 second, before you even step in, your stomach tightens. You look away. You angle your body slightly toward the corner. You tell yourself you're just shy. You're not. The real answer is far stranger than shyness, and it has almost nothing to do with social skill. That tightening in your stomach is an ancient risk calculation. It's running in the background faster than thought, and it has been running in humans for longer than language has existed. Here's the strange part. For most of human history, you would have met almost no strangers at all. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar studied the size of human social groups across history and found something consistent. Humans lived in close-knit bands of roughly 150 people. Everyone you encountered, every single face, belonged to someone whose history you already knew. Their temper, their reliability, whether they shared food fairly or hoarded it, whether they kept their word. A stranger had none of that information attached to them. A stranger was a blank slate, and a blank slate, to your ancestors, wasn't neutral. It was dangerous. Why would an unknown face feel dangerous instead of simply unknown? Because in the world your brain was built for, an unfamiliar face rarely showed up by accident. Outsiders usually meant one of two things. Either they belonged to a rival group competing for the same limited resources, or they were a lone wanderer with nothing to lose and no community holding them accountable for their behavior. Neither situation favored you. Your ancestors, who treated strangers with caution, lived longer than the ones who treated every new face as a friend waiting to be made. Researcher Robert Trivers studied this exact problem from a different angle. He developed the theory of reciprocal altruism, which explains how cooperation evolves between individuals who can keep track of who helped whom. The entire system depends on memory and repeated contact. You help someone today because you expect them to help you tomorrow, and you can verify whether they actually do. A stranger breaks that system completely. There's no history to check, no reputation to consult, no way to know whether this person will cooperate or simply take what they want and disappear. Your brain, faced with that uncertainty, defaults to caution because in evolutionary terms, caution is cheap and betrayal is expensive. That's the part nobody tells you. Your wariness towards strangers was never really about that specific person. It was about the unknown itself. This wariness doesn't even need real differences to activate. In the 1970s, psychologist Henri Tajfel ran a now famous set of experiments. He randomly split people into groups based on something as meaningless as which painting they preferred, told them nothing else, and within minutes, people started favoring their own group and treating the other group with suspicion. No history, no real stakes, no actual conflict. Just an arbitrary line drawn between us and them, and the brain rushed in to fill it with bias anyway. If a coin flip is enough to manufacture caution towards strangers, what does that tell you about how little your nervous system actually needs before it decides someone is a risk? It gets stranger still. A few years later, researcher Muzafer Sharif ran an experiment with two groups of boys at a summer camp who had never met before arriving. Within days, simply by competing over shared resources like a tug-of-war or a baseball game, the two groups grew hostile toward each other. Name-calling, sabotage, real animosity built almost overnight between boys who had no actual history of conflict. But Sharif found something else too. When the two groups were given a shared problem to solve together, something that required actual cooperation, the hostility didn't just fade, it reversed. Strangers became allies almost as quickly as they had become rivals. That detail matters more than the conflict does. Your wariness towards strangers isn't fixed. It's a setting, not a sentence, and it can move in either direction depending on what your nervous system is given to work with. So why does this old alarm feel so loud in a world that's nothing like the one it was built for? Because the math has completely inverted. Your ancestors might have encountered a handful of true strangers across an entire lifetime. You might pass 100 before lunch, Crowded sidewalks, packed trains, elevators, waiting rooms, every single one stacked with unfamiliar faces. Your nervous system was never designed to process at this volume. The alarm that once activated rarely, for genuinely rare and risky encounters, is now misfiring constantly, simply because modern life surrounds you with the one category of person your brain was built to treat with suspicion. This is why a crowded city can feel exhausting in a way that has nothing to do with noise or distance walked. Your threat assessment system is quietly running background checks on dozens of unknown faces an hour, finding no information to work with each time and returning the same default answer over and over. Caution, caution, caution. It also explains something else. Notice how quickly that wariness dissolves once a stranger becomes slightly less strange. A shared joke with someone in line, a small act of kindness from someone on the train, even just learning someone's name. Tiny scraps of information, almost nothing at all, and the alarm quiets dramatically because your nervous system isn't actually asking for proof of safety. It's only asking for any information at all. Anonymity is the real trigger. Familiarity, even a sliver of it, is usually enough to switch the system off. So the next time you feel that tightening around someone you've just met, it's worth remembering what that feeling actually is. It isn't a verdict on the person standing in front of you. It isn't proof that something is wrong with your nerves. It's an ancient, overworked system built for bands of 150 familiar faces, now running constant checks on a species that lives, works, and commutes among millions of strangers it was never built to evaluate. You're waiting for an elevator. The doors open. A stranger is already inside. This time, instead of looking away, you nod, and they nod back. Nothing dramatic happens. No danger arrives. And somewhere, underneath the silence, the oldest part of your mind quietly updates its answer, one small data point at a time. And if you made it all the way to the end, thank you. I genuinely appreciate it. This channel is still small, and every single like, comment, and subscription helps more than you probably realize. So if you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, hit subscribe and join the journey. We're just getting started.